Hello everyone, and welcome to the Narcosis channel, and let's start the third ECG subject, ECG GRID and normal values. And as Albert Camus said in his book, The 6 Ways to Enjoy Your Life, you will never live if you are just looking for the meaning of the life. In the last lectures, we have talked about the nomenclature of ECG deflections and electrocardiographic leads. In this lecture, we will start to talk about the ECG grid and normal values, the normal P wave, the normal QRS complex, the normal T wave, the normal U wave, the normal PR interval, the normal QT interval, the normal PR segment, the normal ST segment. So make sure you fasten your seatbelt and let's take off and start with the ECG grid. The electrocardiography paper is made in such a way that it is thermosensitive. Therefore, the ECG is recorded by movement of the tip of a heated stylus over the moving paper. Let's take this example on lead 2. As we know that lead 2 has 2 electrodes, the positive one, located on left leg, toward the apex of the heart and on the direction of the majority of the electrical activity of the heart, and negative electrode, located on the right arm toward the base of the heart, away from the majority of the electrical activity of the heart. The electrical event of the heart start with atrial depolarization toward the positive electrode of lead 2, and this will draw a small positive wave on the ECG paper. Then the ventricular depolarization start also toward the positive electrode of lead 2, and this will draw a large positive wave on the ECG paper. After that, atrial repolarization start toward the positive electrode of lead 2, but as atrial repolarization has weaker electricity and repolarization didn't occur in one direction, it doesn't picked by the ECG machine, and this will not be drawn on the ECG paper.
I was thinking that atrial repolarization not present on ECG paper cause it occurred during the ventricular depolarization.
Then why atrial repolarization not present on third-degree heart block? After that, ventricular repolarization start away from the positive electrode and toward the negative electrode of lead 2, and this will be drawn as a positive wave, although it is away from the positive electrode, but it drawn as a positive wave. That is because it carries opposite charges. That's mean that the last cell to depolarize will be the first cell to repolarize. The ECG paper is available as a roll of 20 or 30 meters, which when loaded into the ECG machine moves at a predetermined speed of 25 mm per second.
But in our hospital, ECG speed is 50 mm per second.
Okay, go to the settings and solve the problem, like you solve all your phone setting problem. The ECG paper is marked like a graph, consisting of horizontal and vertical lines. There are fine lines marked 1 mm apart, while every 5th line is marked boldly. Therefore, the bold lines are placed 5 mm apart. Time is measured along the horizontal axis in seconds, while voltage is measured along the vertical axis in millivolts. During ECG recording, the usual paper speed is 25 mm per second. This means that 25 small squares are covered in 1 second. In other words, the width of one small square is 1/25 or 0.04 seconds, and the width of one large square is 0.04 multiplied by 5 or 0.2 seconds. Therefore, the width of an ECG deflection, or the duration of an ECG interval, is the number of small squares it occupies on the horizontal axis multiplied by 0.04. Accordingly, 2 small squares represent 0.08 sec, 3 small squares represent 0.12 sec, and 6 small squares represent 0.24 sec. In this wave example, It occupies 6 small squares, multiplied by 0.04 equals 0.24 second. Normally, the ECG machine is standardized in such a way that a 1 millivolt signal from the machine produces a 10 millimeter vertical deflection. In other words, each small square on the vertical axis represents 0.1 MV, and each large square represents 0.5 MV. Therefore, the height of a positive deflection above the baseline, or the depth of a negative deflection below the baseline, is the number of small squares it occupies on the vertical axis multiplied by 0.1 MV. Accordingly, 3 small squares represent 0.3 MV, 1 large square represents 0.5 MV, and 6 small squares represent 0.6 MV. In this wave example, the height of a positive deflection equal 2 multiplied by 0.1 equals 0.2 millivolt.
But how we call if we wish to interpret segment elevation or depression?
Similarly, the degree of elevation above the baseline or depression below the baseline of segment is expressed in number of small squares, millimeters, of segment elevation or segment depression in relation to the isoelectric line. In this ST segment example, the height of a positive deflection equals sign 2 small squares above the isoelectric line. So we have finished the ECG grid, and we will talk about the normal ECG values in the next video. And now let's jump to the question of this day. Why does epicardium repolarize first, then the endocardium on the ventricular wall?
Thanks for watching. I will be more than grateful if you press the like, subscribe button and share this video with your colleagues. If you have any suggestions to improve my channel, leave a comment and let me know please. See the description below for the newest updates and for more infos. Also, don't forget to follow us in other social media sites. Keep your narcotic dose and good luck.